Hey everyone, my name's Cheyanne Farquharson. I'm the head coach at the Rideau Canoe Club. I've been coaching for about 10 years. I started paddling in 2002. I started coaching in 2010, and I've been the head coach for just a few months now. I'm super happy to be talking to you all about my experiences as a female coach as part of the Canoe Kayak Ontario Sprint Leading the Way campaign, and to talk about why I think it's important that we have more female coaches in the sport and in positions of leadership. First, I think we should just cover why is it important to hear the experience of a female coach, or what's the issue? And really, there's just not a lot of us in terms of how many female coaches in leadership roles there are. And because there's not too many of us, it just means that the experience that you have as a female coach is different from that of a male coach. And you're sort of constantly in this, minority position. And so your experience is a little bit different. I have to say that I've been really lucky to have lots of support over the years from my family and from my coworkers, the coaches that I work with, from my athletes. They're all, such wonderful people, and it's such a privilege to work with them. And sometimes when it's getting me down and I'm like, oh dang, once again, the only girl at the meeting, it's worth it because I have these wonderful athletes that I work with. I think that overall, one thing that has stuck out to me over the years is that as a woman, you often sort of get pushed into an administrative or managerial role. And so, for example, we need to have a club celebration outside of COVID. We need to have a club celebration. So Chey, why don't you plan a potluck? As opposed to asking one of the male coaches to do it. You're so organized, Chey, why don't you handle this organizational thing that needs to get done? It's well, no, it took me a while to have the confidence to speak up and say, well, no, I'm a coach. I'm not here as the secretary. And it's a little bit of a thing that I do. I will never offer to take notes in meetings anymore because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to be boots on the ground, and my education is as a coach and my experience is as a coach. And just because I'm organized doesn't mean that I should be doing all of the organization. So for me, that is one thing that is sort of a constant, and I didn't notice it at first. When I first started coaching, I felt like I really wanted to be needed, and I wanted to prove that I could do all this stuff. And so I really stepped up and took on all this administrative work. But over the years, I've realized that it's no, I have value as a coach beyond my ability to send emails and to get things organized and ready and administrated. And that's been a journey. It's been standing up and saying no, that's not part of my job is I think something that a lot of female coaches have to deal with, because there are lots of components of coaching that are not coaching, whether you're a man or a woman or a non-binary or whatever you are. There are lots of parts of coaching that are not coaching. And, as a woman in that role, you may find that more often than not, those tasks are getting pushed towards you. Something else that sometimes I think comes up for female coaches is the feeling that at all times you represent all women in coaching. If you're at a meeting or talking to the athletes or talking to other coaches or at a conference, someone asks your opinion or you offer your opinion, and it's okay, great, we have a female perspective, which is great because the female perspective is important, and 50% of the population is female, and that half of the perspective should absolutely be heard. But when you're the only woman or one of few women in the room, then it kind of feels like you can't mess up, and you can't make a mistake, and you can't be vulnerable because you're somehow representing all the female coaches and all of the women perspective. Whereas I think that it's possible that men have that same experience. I don't want to assume, but I think that probably men feel more like, no, they're representing themselves as opposed to representing the entire gender of men. If I was going to give advice to myself 10 years ago or any other young female coach who's interested in pursuing a career in coaching, I would just say be yourself and have the confidence to be yourself. Because when I first started coaching, I really thought that in order to be taken seriously, I had to act more like the male coaches around me or that had coached me. I thought I had to be the toughest coach and maybe even the meanest coach, or I felt like I couldn't yield or compromise because I would be perceived as weak. And I didn't want people walking all over me. You know, I wanted to be taken seriously. And what I've come to realize is that just being tough, like, that's not what makes you a good coach. You have to find whatever your strength is and play to that. And that's where you're going to find the most success. And you have so much to offer as a female coach, but also just as a coach. You have skills and experience and knowledge, and the athletes will benefit from that. And however you choose to play to that strength is where you're really going to find that success. So I'm wishing all the best to all the young coaches out there, and please feel free to reach out to me anytime.